Aloha! Welcome to my channel. I'm J-Dreamers. Today I'm doing a special topic about the Eye of the Sahara, otherwise known as the Richat Structure, or Richat. The Richat Structure. Atlantis versus the Richat Structure. Let's talk about this. You may have seen that there's a popular theory, especially on YouTube, but on the internet, where some people are proponents that this structure behind me, this little crater-like thing, we're going to talk about that today, that is ancient Atlantis. So I enjoy thinking outside of the box, but today I'm going to compare ancient Atlantis to this Eye of the Sahara just to see if it matches up or not. Welcome everybody in the chat. If you want to join in the conversation, just type in JAY and I'll put your comment up here if I catch it. So, for example, Nub's Revenge Dude says, dude, I love your channel. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. All right, cool. Sweet. Well, let's start things off. Have you guys heard of this one? I've got two images here up on the screen. One is Mercator's drawing, right? There's many different drawings of land at the North Pole in the ancient times, but this is one of the most popular ones that pops up. One of the first ones that people see. It's Mercator's drawing of the land that once existed at the North Pole, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to compare that to Atlantis, to Hyperborea, and other mythic, forgotten and lost lands and islands and stuff like that. What's up, everybody? Good to see you, Arctic Timberwolf. Doing good? Yeah, doing good. What's up, Carl? Good to see everybody. All right, cool. So, check this out. This one right behind me, I'm not going to put a whole lot of fancy pictures up and stuff. Today I want to do more talking. That's known as the Eye of the Sahara, right? And one of the main reasons that a lot of people are on board real quick with this structure behind me being Atlantis is because of the circular structure, right? Atlantis, we know, is said to have been circular in shape, that there are these concentric rings that had made up this lost, sunken island. But is it the Richat structure? Should we automatically impart, that like ancient myths and legends of the story of Atlantis to any structures that we find that are circular in nature or even have concentric circles and stuff like that? Let's talk about it. I'm also going to give you my theory on what the Richat structure is. Now, I personally don't believe, so far, I'm not convinced that the Richat structure was actually Atlantis. However, I do believe that the myths and the legends of Atlantis and some other places have traveled along with those people that once lived in Atlantis. So what they did is they left Atlantis and then they took their names and their descriptions and their stories and all these things and they put them on top of wherever they ended up settling. So a good example of that is Mount Meru, right? We talk about Mount Meru being Rupus Nigra, which is in the center of this map over here, done by Gerard Mercator. There are many holy mountains, many religious mountains and sacred mountains that either have the name Mount Meru, they're literally named Mount Meru. Does that mean that they are Mount Meru? No, it doesn't, right? But what they did is they took the story and they applied it to their tallest mountain in the region whenever they settled there, right? To bring a piece of home to their new location, basically. No, you're not too late, Red Rose. You got here just in time. Let's kick things off. All right, so check this out. Now, let's talk about Plato. Plato is one of the main guys, one of the main historians that talks about Atlantis as a factual place that once existed, right? So we're going to compare some of these descriptions of ancient Atlantis to what we know of the Eye of the Sahara, or I want to call it the Rorschach structure for some reason, the Richat structure. All right, so check this out. Plato says that Atlantis is an island larger than Libya and Asia Minor put together. The Richat structure is simply too small to fit this description. However, the North Pole fits it quite well. Let me go ahead and pull up an image here so that I can show you what I mean. Let's see how large the Richat structure is, at least in comparison to Libya. There we go. That's not it. My bad. There we go. Okay, cool. So here, it's kind of hard to see because I'm in the way, but all that red outline You see that? That's Libya. Okay, it's pretty huge. In comparison, way on the other side there, that other green arrow, that's the Richat structure. Now, this is reason number one why I don't personally feel convinced that the Richat structure is or was ancient Atlantis. Atlantis was said to be huge, humongous, as a matter of fact, bigger than Libya and Asia Minor put together. And as you can see, the Richat structure doesn't meet that, right? It's tiny in comparison. Let me see if I can move this so you guys can see it a bit better here. Sweet. All right, so there's Libya, right? I just outlined all of it. And there, that tiny little thing, that's the Richat structure. So as you can see, you can fit many Richat structures in Libya alone. I didn't bother to outline Asia Minor for you. But as you can see, it doesn't meet that simple description. And that's something that comes up quite often when discussing Atlantis, is how large it was, this huge island. So the Richat structure immediately is right out the door for me personally. Now, Plato says Atlantis lay in front of. Now we're going to talk about what the historians say that the actual location was based on their clues that were passed down to us, right? Let's see. Hold on. I'm jumping in the chat real quick. Cam says, hey, what's up, everybody? The map of Hyperborea Atlantis is written in Latin and talks about the pole shifting. You guys should look into the Latin. Good idea. We'll actually do that sometime. All right, let's move forward. Plato says Atlantis lay in front of the pillars of Hercules. Now, let me ask you guys something, right? Okay. Now, some people who follow my channel, you already know what my theory about the pillars of Hercules are and where they're located, right? But where traditionally are we told by academia, right, that mainstream academia, that the pillars of Hercules are located? As a matter of fact, if you try to research the pillars of Hercules, there is only one place that comes up time and time again, and I don't see any substance for that being the location. Not one bit. Now, I don't see a whole lot of substance there. It's a lot of stretching, in my opinion. But they say that the pillars of Hercules are, or is, basically the Rock of Gibraltar, right? There's a strait that goes between the country like Spain, that area, and man, what's the word for it? Ancient Libya, basically. Let me see what it is on the map here. Hold on. Oh, where did my map go? All right, cool. All right, so hold on. Let me share this with you so you can see what I'm looking at. Booyah. All right, cool. So if we zoom in here where Spain is, if I know how to do it, sorry. There we go. So here's Spain right here. So between these two, Morocco and Spain, basically. It's really hard to see. But there's a tiny little strait there called the Strait of Gibraltar. All right, hold on. I'm going to come back to that. All right, so Plato says Atlantis lay in front of the pillars of Hercules. Now, the modern world says, and basically this is them putting their foot down and planting their flag that this is unchangeable. However, it's debated between scholars and scholars alike. But they say it's the Rock of Gibraltar, right? They say it's that area over there, and that is the area where Hercules built his pillars. Okay, I have all kinds of questions already. First of all, if the Rock of Gibraltar represents half of the pillars of Hercules, right, and I guess the other half, right, the other side of it isn't too popular. All you can really find is like the Rock of Gibraltar, the Hill of Moses or the Mountain of Moses or Musha or however they say it is said to be the other side. However, neither one of those look like pillars. They just look like, big. They look like mountains basically. They don't look like any kind of pillar that I've ever seen. So Plato says Atlantis lay in front of the pillars of Hercules. The pillars of Hercules are not the Strait of Gibraltar for many reasons. They're located in the wrong spot. First and foremost, they're not in the right spot for those to be the pillars of Hercules. They're located at the westernmost extremity of the inhabitable world. The westernmost extremity of the inhabitable world, right? Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, I did a whole video called East is Up. And I talk about west being down in the ancient world, or down into the hollows of the earth, and east being upwards towards the stars or the sky. So the pillars of Hercules were established by Hercules during one of his labors to mark the westernmost extremity of the inhabitable world. Gibraltar was not Okay, Morocco, no, none of that. Spain was not the westernmost. See, here's what modern academics tries to do. They try to convince you that your ancestors were stupid or incapable. One of those two, they're trying to tell you that, oh, they didn't go very far out. Meanwhile, we've got other stories of worldwide travelers that go all over the place. You know what I mean? Even sometimes specifically looking for and commissioned by kings and queens, commissioned to find the Fountain of Youth, the Garden of Eden, etc. Sorry, sorry that was not the westernmost part of the world. Not only that, but if you go traditionally east and west, there is no westernmost part of the world, is there? You just keep going on a circle until you get right back to where you started. It's infinite. There's no western limitation to the world. There's no eastern limitation, unless your concept of east and west is different, like it used to be in the old world. So they say that it represents the westernmost travels of Hercules or Heracles and the limits of the surface world. That part's crucial. Associated with the axis mundi and therefore the North Pole. If it was traditional west or east, there would be no end, and therefore it could not be a western limit. In referencing ancient Egypt and the land of the dead, aka the underworld, it says this, the ancient Egyptians, this is referencing the ancient Egyptians. This land of the dead was situated in the west. Hence, the tombs were all placed whenever possible on the west bank of the Nile. The constant cry of the mourners as the funeral procession moved forward was, "To the west, to the west." This underworld was beyond the water, hence the funeral procession always crossed a body of water. So in ancient Egypt, when they were having these funeral processions, they would be delivering the dead to the underworld. So they would give instructions as to where that was, and they would say to the west, the underworld being down, being westward, inside the earth, right? But that's not all. We also got the Elysian Fields. The Elysian Fields were, according to Homer, located on the western edge of the earth by the stream of Okeanos, or Oceanos, the ocean, basically. In the time of the Greek... Oh, so hold on. Let me repeat that, okay? Because that bears repeating. The Elysian Fields, according to Homer, were located on the western edge of the earth. If you go west, there's no edge. Okay, you just keep on going in a circle and you come right back to where you started. So we need to change our concept of west, at least how the ancients saw it, so that it's more in line with these places that they're describing, right? What else? We got, in the time of the Greek poet Hesiod, Elysium would also be known as the Fortunate Isles or the Islands of the Blessed, located on the western ocean at the end of the earth. Once again, if you go west, you're not going to reach the end of the earth. You're going to do a circle. Same thing if you go east, right? However, if you go to the North Pole, right, there is said to be a limit. There is said to be a place where the surface world stops and you now enter into a different realm, which is the westernmost limit of the world, or the doors to the west, you could say. Now check this out. Excuse me. Atlas. Now, let's talk about the name Atlantis real quick, okay? Atlantis. Atl on tis, basically, right? So the root word of Atlantis is atl. That might sound familiar with you. That might sound familiar to you if you've done research on Quetzalcoatl, right? Let's look that up real quick, as a matter of fact. Quetzalcoatl. Sorry, one second. I'm just doing this on the fly. I didn't have it pulled up already. Quetzalcoatl, or feathered serpent, or the plumed serpent, is the Nahuatl name for the feathered serpent deity of ancient Mesopotamian culture. And, oh, hold on. Let me type in meaning here. Okay, cool. So it says it comes from Quetzal, which means bird, I'm sorry, wait. Tail feather of the Quetzal bird. Yes. And then coatl. Basically, what they're saying is coatl means snake. However, I don't feel like that's an accurate representation. I believe that the root of coatl is just atl, and ko or ka means like. So coatl really translates, or would translate, if that's true, into snake-like or serpentine. You see what I'm saying? So the feathered serpent, or the feathery snake-like object, basically, right? So coatl, atl means snake-like, essentially. That's what I was trying to get to. All right, hold on. I'm gonna jump in the chat if I see anything highlighted. Oh, Scarlet Shadow wants to know how the springs are. I don't know. I don't live there anymore. Let's see. Yeah, I totally moved to like this other city called Fountain. All right, cool. Let's move on. I forgot where I was going with that. So Quetzalcoatl. Oh yeah, that's right. Atlantis, right? So Atlon means somebody of the serpent, basically. And now the serpent symbolism is plasma. Almost every time. I mean, sometimes it's actually an animal that's serpent-like. Sometimes it's actually a snake. But quite often, it is those things that are snake-like that the ancients were trying to describe that they didn't really have a word for. You know what I mean? Or at least these are the words that they chose. They chose to be descriptive and cartoonify what they saw in the way that they best knew how to describe it, right? So they saw this plasma snaking around everywhere, and they said it would be serpentine or snake-like. So Atlon means somebody of the snake or somebody of the serpent. And then Oz at the end just means a strong one, right? Oz or Oz or os or us or whatever always means strength or a strong one or a mighty one. So mighty one of the serpent essentially is what Atlontos translates into. Atlon Oz. All right, so Atlas, Atl Oz, was the king of Atlantis. He held up the sky and was associated with the axis mundi at the North Pole. Check this out. So doesn't it make sense that the main god of Atlantis, right, would give us some huge clues as to where Atlantis is located? Atlas never has been located or known to be located in Africa. There may be stories and legends that have passed down where people imparted that to them or they added to it because they moved to a new area and they want to bring their god with them and their stories with them. So they apply those ancient stories to local places. Does that make sense? Right? So Atlas was the king of Atlantis, or Atlantis. He held up the sky and he was associated with the axis mundi. Atlas was the guy who holds the sky up. Not to be confused with this modern version that holds up the earth for some strange reason. That's the opposite. That's how you know we live in the opposite world. Atlas holds up the sky. If you ever see Atlas holding up a big ball marble earth, that's not Atlas. I don't know who that is, but that's not Atlas, okay? So stop doing that. Atlas holds the sky up, and the place where he holds the sky up is the axis mundi, aka the Garden of Eden, aka Hyperborea, aka the center of the world. It's the axis mundi because all of the stars rotate around it. All of the stars do not rotate around the eye of the Sahara. So somebody could make the case that at one time, a long time ago, the eye of the Sahara used to be at the middle of the world. Possibly, could be. However, I also have a theory that the world grows with every apocalyptic cycle. And that's based off of ancient texts talking about this holy mountain splitting, right? That the world actually pulls apart at the center and grows and gets bigger every time. All right, so Atlas was the king of Atlantis. He was associated with the axis mundi, the North Pole. Atlantis sank into the ocean. Okay, that's not the ocean, okay? This place over here, right, is exactly where the ocean would be. It's not on the maps anymore. You know what's on the maps in place of that spot? Water. Which means if that place was there, it was an island continent right underneath the axis mundi, right underneath, right where the axis mundi is, right where the stars rotate around. It matches up. It's covered in water on modern maps. This one right here, totally not covered in water. Like it's not even underwater. You know what I mean? So I get it. Maybe people would say that like, oh, well, it did go underwater, but then it like reemerged and, maybe the water dried up and now you can see it or whatnot. Okay, I get it. But still, the land at the middle, the island at the middle with Mount Meru, that one to me is winning so far. That one to me has my vote so far. Makes more sense. Let's see here. In the chat, we got Lord Racer. Oh, he's just talking about how he met me. Right on. That's cool. It's good to see you again. Let's see. Atlantis sank into the ocean. That's a pretty big one, I would say. Wouldn't you guys say that's a pretty big one? Now, war between those who dwelt outside of the Pillars of Hercules and those who dwelt within them. This is a partial quote that I'm taking from Plato. He talks about how there was war. It might be Plato. I'm pretty sure it's Plato. I don't know. But anyways, they say that there was war between those who dwelt outside of the Pillars of Hercules and those who dwelt within them. So hold on. let's take a look at the Strait of Gibraltar one more time. Right? Let's take a look at it. Let's see here. Is it this one? Nope. That one. That one. That one. There it is. All right, cool. Let's see if I could fix this. Hold on. All right, Strait of Gibraltar. We're going to scooch it over a bit and go right to Spain. That did not work. All right, cool. There we go. All right, there it is. Okay, cool. Now, what they say is that one of the pillars was on the tip of that right there, and the other pillar was right over here on the tip of that one. So who did they go to war with that lived between the two? You know what I mean? There's nobody there's just water right there. There's just nothing. There's no island right there. There's no continent. There's nothing where people could go to war with someone who lives between those 2 points. You know what I mean? However, how do I get back to that? All right, now if you look at the Mercator map, actually let's do this. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the map on this one. Okay, cool. So now let's imagine that you've got your anode island, as we've talked about before, and a corresponding cathode island somewhere down in this area, right? Those are the Pillars of Hercules. Okay, there's a mountain up here that is said to be and labeled on ancient maps as a magnetic mountain. There is also Mount Meru, and I believe there's a corresponding one on the other side, and I have found it on other maps, where they are plasma volcanoes. They shoot up into the sky columns of light, beams of light, every other apocalyptic cycle after the Earth is done charging and pulling all of that energy into the core or into the center portion, the hollows, recesses of our world, right? Then the lights come out after the next apocalyptic cycle, which we're coming up on. Hey, the Plasma Prophet, thank you super much. Appreciate you. So anyways, those would be the Pillars of Hercules. And if those are the Pillars of Hercules, one up here and one down here-ish, somewhere down there, I have to pull up a different map to show you it to you. But if those are the Pillars of Hercules, then there is a land in between them filled with people who are said to be pretty formidable that you would probably, that people could have gone to war with. And those people of that land could have left the Pillars of Hercules, right, in between them where they were known to reside, and they could go about the world and start taking over and settling and stuff like that, which is what the legends say those who once lived at the North Pole have done, and what they do every other cycle. They flock to the North Pole land when it appears, when it's there. When they see that light or the light of the world shoot up, the wise go to it. They all inhabit this island and they stay there for a time until that blue beam retracts, and then they have no reason to be there, and then others can also get in and invade their island, so they leave. And and keep in mind, they're populating the entire time, right? So they take their tribes, they take their families, and they spread out throughout the face of the earth. The most natural way for them to spread out would just be through land bridges, right? So let's take another look at this map right here. Now, this is not an accurate map. This is just a modern map. They don't put the North Pole at the top up here. You can barely even see Greenland up here, right? However, if there was a people and nations, as they're referred to as, of people that lived at this island at the top of the world, and then for some reason something happened and they all had to migrate and leave, they're going to come from the north. Okay, you're going to have a tribe of people or many tribes of people that are complete strangers to everyone else who's already been living in the outside world where we are. And these strangers are going to they're going to move and try to resettle and find other places. And they come down through the north, and they go down through Siberia and Russia, and they come down into the Caucasus areas, and they go down into Iran, and then they come down over here, and they go through Spain, and they conquer Algeria and Libya and Egypt, and this whole area up here, which, by the way, is the native land of, what are they called? The Barbary, the Barbary Coast. So all of that is called the Barbary Coast. Barbary people, what are they called? Barbary, they're just called Barbaries, I guess. Who are the Barbary people? The Berbers. Okay, cool. Named after the Berbers, one of North Africa's native peoples, the Barbary states were little pirate kingdoms. Wow, how interesting, right? Because, hold on, let me get this back off here. All right, so check this out. So the Barbaries of the Barbary Coast, which is all of the coastline of North Africa, essentially, right? They were said to be pirates and seafaring people. They were even, I believe, the origin of the descriptor called the Moors, right? The Moors, the word Moor is related to the word mar, which means the sea or the ocean, etc. And this is a place where they would throw their anchor and they would set up shop and they would stay there. It's a harbor. It's a port city, essentially, or a port area or a harbor area. So they were known as the Moors, also called the Barbars, right? The Berbers, same thing. Forget the vowels, right? Just go to the roots, BR, right? What does that mean? Well, first and foremost, it's where you get the word barbarian, okay? The barbarians were these tribes of people who typically were nomadic, and they went from place to place, kind of conquering and settling and stuff and taking over lands. And oftentimes were said to come from the north, right? Also, this might ring a bell with some of you, but it's also the Tartarians. So the Tartars, which is really the Tatars, but the Tartars are the same as the Barbars. Why? The Tetarians, or the Tetarians, come from the Tet. That land right there is the exact shape of the ancient letter Tet. It's a circle with an X in the middle of it. The Tetarians are those who come from the tree of trees. That's why they're called Tartarians. Tar means tree. It comes from the root word dero, or deru, which is the Proto-Indo-European root word for tree, or tar, which is where we get the word tar from, right? So Tartarian or Tartary, etc. That means the tree of trees. Those are the people who came from that area, that region where the tree of tree grows. Same thing with the bars. The bar of bars, the bar that shoots up into the sky where everyone goes to and they all get together and there's a lot of selling and stuff like that. It's also the homeland of Hermes Trismegistus, Mercury, etc., which are trading gods, which are also pirate gods, by the way. So that's pretty interesting stuff. Let's continue on with this little informative lesson. Let's see. Oh yeah, Atlantis sank into the ocean. That's a pretty huge one. War between those who dwell outside of the Pillars of Hercules and those who dwell in them, right? If it's the Strait of Gibraltar, there's nobody living between. There's no one that lives on the Strait of Gibraltar, to my knowledge, okay? So people can stretch that, and they could try to say, oh, it's like on the other side of the. No, I don't think so. That's just me. All right, let's move forward. Looking towards the sea, but in the center of the whole island, and this is a description of Atlantis by Plato, I believe. Looking towards the sea, but in the center of the whole island, there was a plain like a field, essentially, like a flat surface, right? Which was said to have been the fairest of all the plains. So if we replace the word plains with fields, right, this would be the Elysian fields that they're referring to, which is on the western extremity of the world. All right. These plains were the fairest of all the plains, and they were very fertile, because it would be the Garden of Eden as well. Near the plain again, and also in the center of the island, at a distance of about 50 stadia, there was a mountain. And in this mountain, there dwelt one of the earth-born primeval men of that country. So, in the middle of this land, right, you've got these fields, these plains. As you can see, this is a crater, Okay, this also is a form of crater. But you have these fields, and in the middle of those fields is a mountain. Boom, check. Mount Meru gets the win because there's no mountain there. Okay, do you guys see a mountain? There's no mountain there. You might be able to make out like, you know, a hill or a little rocky area, but you can put the little guy in Google Earth right in the middle. Psh, psh. You're not going to see a mountain. I did it. There's no mountain there. So another strike against the Eye of the Sahara, against the Richat Structure. In the center of the whole island, there was a plain said to have been the fairest of all plains and very fertile. Near the plain again, and also in the center of the island, at a distance of 50 stadia, there was a mountain. Okay, so we went over that. Oh, also, I would also say this, right? That mountain is also associated with Babylon, right? And the Tower of Babel, etc., which is said to have been built directly on top of Enki's abode. Enki is the Lord of the Earth. Another epithet for Poseidon. Also means Lord of the Earth. Interesting, right? All right. What was I going to say? The Mediterranean gets brought up a lot, okay? The Mediterranean is just a word. It's not absolutely a place. There are many Mediterraneans if we're literal. Literally, it means middle of the earth, okay? So that could also be seen as the Mediterranean or the middle of the earth, basically, right? So, like I said, they take these descriptors from their original place and they bring them with them and they apply them to their local geography to make themselves feel more at home. Unfortunately, over time, people forget about the original and then they just think that the local geography is that's it. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that matters. All right. The whole country was said by him to be very lofty and precipitous. Precipitous. That basically means tall. Okay, so the whole country had really tall mountains. The whole country was said to be lofty and precipitous, however you say that, on the side of the sea. Okay, so on the side of the country where the island meets the ocean should be tall and lofty. Check. No ocean here. Okay, so there's nothing to really compare that to. However, you do see some ridges. I'll give that to you. There's some ridges there. Boom, and there's some ridges there. Are those high and lofty ridges? Like, let's read what the rest of it says. High and lofty on the side of the sea, but the country immediately about and surrounding the city was a level plain, itself surrounded by mountains which descended towards the sea. It was smooth and even and of an oblong shape. You can't see that entire island right there, but it's not perfectly circular. It's kind of oblong. Extending in one direction, 3,000 stadia. But across the center island, it was 2,000 stadia. Now, I did my own little, attempts at trying to measure, I'm just trying to guess at how big this island in the middle would be because I was just using Google Earth and just did some estimates. I'm estimating it's about 1,000 miles long, approximately. It could be less, could be more, but it's pretty big, basically. And, I was just using Google Earth or whatever. So around the outside, on the area towards the sea, we have high and lofty mountains. Boom, check. Mount Meru and that island gets the win. Let's see, what else? Where was I? An oblong shape, boom, gets the win. Extending in one direction, 3,000 stadia, but across the center inland, it was only 2,000 stadia. This part of the island looked towards the south. Okay, if you're here, all of that's south. Okay, basically. All those mountains are southward if you're on the northern side of them. All right. And it was sheltered from the north. The surrounding mountains were celebrated for their number, size, and beauty, far beyond any which still exist. Boom. I'm sorry. This doesn't take the cake for me. I've seen this area. I've studied it a lot online. Those don't sound anything like the description that we're reading, right? However, the legends about these mountains definitely seem to match. Now, the order of precedence among them and their mutual relations were regulated by the commands of Poseidon, which the law had handed down. All right, so basically in the center land in the middle of the earth, or in the Mediterranean, there were these laws that were handed down by Poseidon himself. It goes on to say, these laws were inscribed by the first kings on a pillar of orichalcum, which was situated in the middle of the island. Is there a pillar in the middle of that island? Yes, there is. Is there a pillar in the middle of this island? No, there's not. Okay. Where was I? I'm sorry, I get excited. Which was situated in the middle of the island at the temple of Poseidon. Now, that's where the temple of Poseidon would be. I haven't seen any relics, temples, debris, ruins, nothing when researching the Eye of the Sahara, aka the Richat Structure. That's just me. I haven't found any kind of evidence of that whatsoever. Where was I? Oh, that's right. So this is also the story of the Ten Commandments too, right? So Mount Sinai is akin to Mount Meru, right? And what's interesting is they're saying, according to the legend, that this mountain in the middle of Atlantis was made out of, or it was a pillar, I should say, of orichalcum. So if we look up what is orichalcum, let's do that real quick. Orichalcum. How do you spell that? There we go. So basically, it's a mythic and legendary metal that does not exist in the modern world. It's a metal mentioned in several ancient writings, actually. And let me just search for a word here. Copper. Boom. All right. Let's see. Orichalcum. The name is derived from the Greek word, which means oros, or mountain, and kalkos, which means copper. So orichalcum literally translates into copper mountain, just like we've talked about, right? With and the reason I'm bringing up copper and the copper mountain is because, as we've discussed, it seems likely that there may be an anode copper mountain or some sort of metallic mountain and a cathode copper mountain. Also, Mount Meru itself might be made out of copper. Now, they say that this is 6-7. Hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel. They say that it's a different type of copper, basically. And the legends are talking about how it looks sort of goldish, it looks like. I'm just kind of skimming over it. But yeah, basically, you don't see any of that here, do you? I don't see any of that there. All right, let's move on. Let's see. So, also, these laws were written on this pillar, on this mountain, right? Which, there's so many legends that talk about that. So you would expect to see some kind of pillar in this Eye of the Sahara that has these laws written on it or whatever. And there's nothing there that I've seen that has any laws written on it. However, in the area where Hermes Trismegistus is from, the legends say that there is this mountain that has these inscriptions on it, basically. That Hermes himself drew with commands for the people or laws that were handed down. Same thing as Moses and stuff like that too. All right, let's move forward. Zeus, the god of gods, who rules according to law and is able to see into such things, perceiving that an honorable race was in woeful plight, and wanting to inflict punishment on them that they might be chastened and improve themselves, collected all of the gods into their most holy habitation, which being placed at the center of the world, beholds all created things. And when he had called them together, he spoke as follows. That's the last part of that particular entry by Plato, but here we have again, Plato's referencing Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis. And then he also references and talks about the center of the world and gathering the gods together. So we have another center of the world descriptor right there along with Atlantis. Now check this out. The island was larger than Libya and Asia, or Asia Minor put together, and was the way to other islands, and from these you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent which surrounded the true ocean. For this sea, which is within the straits of Hercules, or Heracles, is only a harbor, having a narrow entrance, but that other is the real sea, and the surrounding land may most truly be called a boundless continent. This is like 25, this is like the size of a small city. Okay, this right here behind me, that is not a boundless continent whatsoever. This one, however, is huge. If you look on the maps and you size it up, it's pretty big. So you could call that one and see it as a boundless continent. What else? Oh, also, this was a place of high trade, right? Now, I know that some people are saying that there's this theory that a long time ago, Africa was flooded partially and cut in half by this flood or whatever, hey, the world was flooded. It totally was flooded, right? But they're saying that it was all flooded out and that this, in Africa, okay, this flooded little island area became like the area of trade worldwide. Why? Why would this be the area of trade worldwide way down in Africa? Why wouldn't it be at the top of the land that connects all of the continents, right? Most of the continents, I should say, right? You can, and a long time ago, some of these maps show that there were land bridges, right? If you look at these maps of the North Pole over time, you can almost watch it being flooded, okay? Because it starts off, it's just solid, right? Just solid land. And then you start to see more island formations. And then over time, it's just, you could barely make out islands. So you might actually, by looking at the historic record, be watching as Atlantis sinks in the map records at the very least. All right, moving forward, the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea. Not in the depths of the sea. That's not in the depths of the sea. I'm just going to call it out every time. For this sea, which is within the Straits of Hercules, is only a harbor having a narrow entrance. Oh, we already read that. The island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared into the depths of the sea, for which reason the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable. Let me just check the chat, make sure we're good. Oh, we are. Jackie Janis, or Janes, says, J Dreamers, in theory, how many world floods could there have been according to these multiple historic records? Many world floods. Actually, Plato calls that out when he's talking to his friends. He's saying, you've heard that the world flooded once? I'm here to tell you it's flooded many times. This happens over and over. It's a cyclical occurrence. Screen name 229 says, Jay, so glad somebody is checking, fact checking. Oh, that's right. The Georgia guys. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. I don't want to call out other channels specifically or anything because I don't have a problem with them or their channel. I just want to talk about the subject. JL, hey, welcome to my channel. All right, cool. Where was I? Let's see. The island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea, for which reason the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable. You don't even have a sea to be impassable or to be impenetrable. Unless, of course, somebody makes the case that, well, they were talking about a long time ago when it was a sea and it was impassable and it was impenetrable. But listen to this. He says it's impassable and impenetrable. Now we're going to go over to this one. Because there is a shoal of mud in the way. And this was caused by the subsidence of the island. So there was mud blocking the way to this island, right? Crow Rising, hey, welcome to my channel. Good to see you. So first and foremost, if this whole area right here was filled with mud and then it dried, would it look like that? It could, possibly. Anything's possible, but not likely, right? It would just be covered up. It would just be flat once again because it's just mud and it levels out or whatever. That's a possibility. Let me explain to you where this mud comes from. Where am I going to explain this? Hold on one sec. Here we go. Now, in reference to the anode and the cathode on either side of the Garden of Eden, aka Hyperborea, the four lands, island continents that were once on the North Pole maps, right? We have talked about and discussed the theory that there is, or was, and still is, and will be, two corresponding mountain witnesses that both have their inner earth energy or light that come up out of them, just like the one in the middle at Mount Meru. They create an electrical arc together, right? Now, if that's true, it stands to reason that on the large scale, that electrolytic system or electrolysis system will correspond to our smaller examples. In an electrolysis system on a smaller scale, what happens is the cathode or the cathode mountain, if you're talking about mountains being the anode and the cathode, right? Or the witnesses, the cathode mountain will receive energy. It will collect substance The anode mountain will not. It will break apart. It's actually seen as sacrificing itself to give energy to the cathode, right? Because that's what it's doing. It's positive, so it's giving out energy. It's pushing out energy. It's losing energy, essentially, right? Because it is deteriorating, underneath it is sludge that builds up. Let me read this to you. In electrolytic refining, anode, or the anode, is made from impure metal, and cathode is that of pure metal. When electricity is passed between the two, just like we referenced in the churning of the ocean, the pure metal present in the anode goes and sticks to the pure metal at the cathode, and the impurities which were left behind settle down the anode, and this is called anode mud. I kid you not. So if there is an anode and a cathode, and they are represented by islands at the North Pole on either side of those 4 islands right there, then under one of them, we should expect to see the sea itself being filled with sludge and mud, and it sounded kind of swampy-like. It is called anode mud, right? No evidence that I'm seeing for any mud or an accumulation of so much mud that ships couldn't, go through or whatever in this particular region, right? All right, let's continue on. So the anode mud. Herodotus says Atlantis tried to subdue at a blow the whole of the region within the straits. Okay, so if it's the Straits of Gibraltar, if it's the Strait of Gibraltar, how are they going to subdue anything? There's nothing in the middle of it, just water. You know what I mean? In between those 2 markers. I don't think so. I don't think that's the location. Plato allegedly says that elephants are indigenous to Atlantis. Okay, well, first of all, it's kind of weird, right? Because where do the elephants come from? How do they get on these islands? You know what I mean? Yes. Are there elephants in Africa? Yes. Are they indigenous to the Eye of the Sahara area? I'm not too sure about that, so I can't speak on it. Honestly, I'll just say my feeling is probably no, right? However, if you look at the world map and you see and plot out where all of the worlds, or most of the worlds, instantly frozen, woolly mammoths are, and elephants of that nature, you're going to see that they all seem to be around the area of the Arctic Circle. Meaning that they may have come from inside of the earth itself, that they came out from right there, and then they went and populated the rest of the world, just like the Tartarians or the barbarians, etc., and so on and so forth, right? And they walked out because there was no ocean at the time, and so they just walked from place to place, and they were able to do that. And then the world flooded and created islands and stuff like that, and then they got stuck, right? But if you look at the Arctic Circle, you can see that there is plenty of evidence for elephants being at the North Pole region, right? And even the legends talk about how there are gigantic elephants inside of the earth, that there are mastodons and woolly mammoths and all that fun stuff that are said to be native to the inner earth region. So, next up is an area of worldwide trade. We did talk about that, right? So that's an area of worldwide trade touching all of the other continents, basically at the top of the world there. All right, now I'm going to go through some more notes. I do have somebody in the chat. Yvonne says, so sad to hear what you're saying. Okay. Why are you sad? Why does it make you sad? I wouldn't be sad. Jesse Williams says, Jay, this seems like some people may have made a new Atlantis model after the old one or something like that. I totally agree. It kind of does seem like that. All right, I'm just checking up on some notes too here real quick. Oh, the Libyan desert glass. That's really interesting. So let me tell you what my theory on this right behind me is, okay? I believe that every once in a while, the world goes through cyclical cataclysms. That's what I call the blue sky cataclysm and the red sky cataclysm, right? One where the ocean is introduced and floods the world, and the other one where fire comes down and the oceans are sucked up and they leave, basically, right? So there's 2 different cataclysms, and during these cataclysms, the plasma that is in the quote-unquote plasma sphere up and around our world is able to come in and ground itself because the electromagnetic barrier goes down during the neutral point. When that happens, you have lightning. Bolts of lightning, thunderbolts of the gods that strike the earth in random different places. Maybe not random. I'm sure there's a purpose and a rhyme and a reason to it, but in seemingly random areas like the Eye of the Sahara. That is a signature marker of electromagnetic electric discharge, basically. Cosmic electric discharge, I should say. So huge bolts of lightning that come up from Zeus or the whatever sky gods there are, they hit the ground and they create these craters that leave these ripples like this. You can actually see stuff like this on the moon as well. If you look up some of the moon craters, they're highly questionable, for me personally at least. But if this was created by a huge blast of electricity, then somewhere in the area, we would expect, since this is all sand-ish, we would expect to find a bunch of glass, right? Just so happens that all across the Sahara, there is something called, well, I wouldn't say all across the Sahara, but in Libya, at the very least, is Libyan desert glass. An anomaly that people basically don't know where it came from, how it was created. They're like, oh, the only thing that could have created this is like, something celestial or something out there in the space or heavens. Yes, cosmic electric discharge blasts this ground and the wind just carries all the little particles, a little further down or whatever and spreads them out, creating glass in the desert. That's what happens when lightning strikes sand. It makes glass. You know what I mean? All right, so we talked about Libyan desert glass. What else? Do you guys have any questions for me or any comments? I'm just checking. Oh, here we go. The garden. Now check this out. So it's related to the Hesperides, right? Atlantis or Atlas is directly related to the island place called the Hesperides and his daughters by the same name. The garden of the Hesperides is located in the far west, once again, at the edge of the all-encircling ocean. Okay, so if this is Atlantis, it needs to be encircled by an ocean, which it is, right? This one is not. Near the mountains where the Titan Atlas stands and holds up the sky. Atlas doesn't move around. Atlas stays in one spot. He doesn't go hold up the sky somewhere else and take a break. He stands in one spot and he holds up the entire sky. Now, if you were holding up the entire sky, which place would make the most sense to stand? In the middle. Right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? Access by land or sea is treacherous and impossible for all but the most heroic of mortals. And that is the area of the Hesperides as well. All right, let's see. Did I have anything else as far as that goes? Oh, the island of the nymphs and stuff like that. Oh, also Hercules took his turn holding up the sky for Atlas. Hercules met Atlas during his journeys. And he tricked him. He said, hey, man, I'll hold up the sky if you go get these golden apples, right? Which is like balls of plasma, basically, that grow off of the world tree, which is a beam of plasma. So they're little eddies and stuff. And they were seen as these golden apples. So Hercules holds up the sky for Atlas and gives Atlas a break. And then Atlas comes back and he holds up the sky again. That was at the middle of the world, as we've talked about. Just checking my notes. Oh, here's another one. So, discussing and referring to Hercules' 12 labors or Heracles' 12 labors. One of them was to fetch the cattle of an entity known as Geryon. It says Geryon lived on an island called Erythea, which was near the boundary of Europe and Libya. Now, some people might easily say, oh, okay, Europe and Libya, right? Well, first of all, Europe and Libya are actually, in the present maps, kind of far away, all right? But in the ancient maps, Libya used to be way bigger. All of northern, like we talked about, the Barbary coast, that was all considered Libya, basically, at the time. Which means it would have been even bigger, right? All right. So Hercules is looking for the cattle of Geryon for some reason, right? Must be nice cattle. By the way, these cattle are said to be huge, gigantic, right? So if these bovines, these gigantic animals came from inside the earth is basically what I'm trying to tell you. All right, now Geryon, it says on this island, Geryon kept a herd of red cattle. Now they were special because they were red, and there's a lot of connections from the word red to Atlantis and to this island right here in the middle right there. Hercules set off for Etheria. Now, Etheria, they say, on the modern maps, they named this tiny little minuscule little stretch of island off the coast of like Spain or something, Etheria. It doesn't match up to the ancient descriptions of what we're talking about. Once again, the ancient stories were imparted to the local new geography, right? He encountered and probably killed many wild beasts along the way. He came to the place where Libya met Europe. Here, Apollodorus tells us Hercules built 2 massive mountains. So here you can see that the pillars of Hercules, at the very least, at their base, are mountains. They're physical, actual mountains on the earth, right? But a mountain in and of itself is not a pillar-like structure. It's not a column-like structure traditionally, unless it really jets straight up out of the ground, becoming more tower-like, right? All right, cool. So other accounts say that Hercules split one mountain into 2. So Mount Meru there is said to be, I call it the split mountain, right? And it stands to reason that if the Earth actually grows after these types of resets or after the plasma apocalypse, the mountain has to split if the Earth grows. If Mount Meru is part of the Earth and the Earth is growing from the center outwards, Mount Meru has to split in half, basically. All right, so we talked about the Strait of Gibraltar versus the actual pillars of Hercules, and how the current location in the modern world just makes no sense to me personally whatsoever. Now, the indigenous people of North Africa, west of Egypt, form a meta-ethnicity commonly known as Berbers, which we referenced earlier. To the outsiders, they were the Berbers, or the Berberion, the barbarians, right? But their common endonym are variants of Amazigh. Amazigh. Now, Amazigh, if I'm butchering it or not, I don't know, but Amazigh was another name for Berbers, or barbarians, or Tartarians, etc. And what it meant is the free people. The people who were free. Otis, hey, good to see you. Welcome to my channel, Otis. The Berbers they would like to be known as the Amazigh, or the Amazigh, which means free people. Right? Just like all the movies where we have all the truth in movies where the character's name basically means free man, or we did the movie Free Guy, the Franks, the free people, etc., and so on and so forth. All of the time, the free people are those who came from somewhere else. They're wanderers. They're free to roam about, to go wherever they please. They're nomads, etc., until they settle down. And those were called the Berbers, etc., and they came from the area that was known as Libya. Now listen to their creation story. This is actually kind of funny, so I don't know if you'll laugh along with me, but it's an interesting creation story from the Amazighs, aka the Berbers. In the beginning, all humans lived underground. A man and a woman existed, but they didn't realize their difference in gender. The pair came to a well. Right there. The well is always in the middle of the island. Okay. The well is the wishing well. The well is the cave of treasures, the cave of wonders, all that. It's Mount Meru is the well, basically. And it's called a well because there is this healing energy that comes up out of it, out of the earth, and it shoots up to the sky, and it is seen as holding up the sky at a time whenever the vapor canopy, comes back into our world and the sky is magnified and everything looks way bigger and way different too. All right, so the man and the woman didn't know the difference between their sexes. The pair came to a well and began to fight over who gets to drink it first. The man was victorious and threw down the woman. Her clothes fell off in the struggle, and he was confused about what her vagina was for. And she invited him to learn. This is their history, okay? So they did it for about 8 days. Every 9 months after that, she would bear 4 sons, and then 4 daughters 9 months afterwards. This went on until there were 50 men and 50 women. The parents sent their children away, the girls heading north and the boys heading east. Now you see there's a separation between the boys and the girls. This island has ties to that. That traditionally there is an island on one side that represents all males, and males seem to have just been born all the time on that island. It was a rare exception when a female was born. The opposite is true. there on the other side, you have the female island. We're talking about the positive and the negative islands, the anode and the cathode. One is where, for some reason, a bunch of females were always born, right? And they had a whole population full of females on their island. The other one was all the male islands. It's not that they separated them purposefully. It's just that that's more likely what you would be born as if you were born on a totally positive or a totally negative, energetically speaking, island, all right, when there's two of them. It's also the story of the Amazons and other tribes as well. The parents sent their children away. The girls heading north and the boys heading east. Both parties saw holes above them shining light, so they climbed through and up to the surface world. They were amazed and the girls asked the plants who made them, and the plants said the earth. And then they asked the earth who made it, and the earth said, I always was. At night, the girls saw the beautiful moon and the stars and asked, who made you? But they were too far away to hear. Eventually, the boys and the girls encountered each other on opposite sides of the river, asking, who are you? What are you? Are you people? The boys wanted to move closer to the girls, but the river was in their way. So also, I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard to tell unless it's covered in water, but it doesn't look like there was rivers or anything. I can't tell. Let's see. The boys wanted to get closer. The girls were like, no, you have cooties. I'm paraphrasing. They asked the river what it was, etc. So they agreed to travel together at a safe distance. Eventually, they came to a mountain spring where the boys immediately began bathing and the girls hanging back aloof. One bold girl and her two companions became curious and they went to spy on what the boys were doing. The bold girl reported back to her camp, those people are not like us. Their hair's short. They don't have any breasts. They don't even have vaginas. And when you see them nude, your heart beats faster and you want to hug them. This is literally what it says. I'm just reading it. The journey continued and the boys decided that they didn't like living out in the open anymore or in holes. So they took rocks and wood to make houses. The trees at first protested, but the youths explained their need for shelter and the trees agreed to give wood. But there was one wild and unruly boy who did not want to live indoors. The girl camp similarly had a wild girl. The wild boy would skulk between the newly built houses, hoping to catch, kill, and eat somebody. The girls became curious again about the activities of the boys, and the bold girl yet again went to investigate. She crawled through the bushes and entered one of the lovely houses. She saw nobody around and decided to go home when the savage boy came by and smelled her presence. He roared and chased her back to the girl camp. Both camps heard screaming, and so a battle of the sexes erupted in the vegetation. Even the savage boy met the savage girl in combat. The boys and the girls paired up to duel, and the girls were victorious. The girls mounted the defeated boys and decided to see if the bold girl had lied. They began to ravish the boys, who became excited and ravished them right back. After this, they married each other and decided it was better for them to be on top. The savage boy and girl wandered the wilderness together after being driven away by the civilized couples, only returning to the village to catch children that they could eat. The girl became known as the archdemoness Teriel, and her husband became the first lion. Anyways, that's an interesting story from the Berbers, the Berber or the barbarian people, you could say. What else? We got the North Pole map. Here's something I wanted to mention. The Santi Parva also describes Atala. So this is in Hinduism. So Atlas or Atlantis is described as Atala, being inhabited by white men who never have to sleep or eat. Now remember, if you go here, see if you feel like you need to sleep. Feel like you need to have a lunch or a snack or something, right? No, but the legends say that if you're in the area where that earth energy comes up out of, that it fills that area, it fills that island with energy so much that you don't need sleep. You don't need to recharge or re-energize. You don't need food. You don't need a lot of it at the very least. So it says that they didn't eat food. The legend says that they didn't eat food and they didn't sleep because they were invigorated with energy. Interestingly enough, the Greek historian Herodotus in 450 BC describes a tribe of Atlanteans who never dream and eat no living thing. I don't know if you've seen that movie Noah, right? With the dude in Gladiator. who plays Noah, whatever his name is, they also were vegetarians. They would not eat meat. They thought it was barbaric. They actually met some people who were hunting some awesome animal and they killed it. And the kids were like, why'd they do that? And they're like, they eat these. Kids were shocked. They were like, they couldn't even conceive of eating their little animal friends. So it's said that the people who came from this area don't need to sleep, don't need to eat. And they especially do not eat other living beings, creatures, meat, muscle, bodies, whatever you want to call it. Can this be coincidence? And just as the god Poseidon is very much involved in the Atlantis story, likewise in the Sanskrit accounts, we find Varuna, the Hindu Poseidon, very much involved in Atala. So Atala was also known as the White Island. Well, that's super interesting, right? Because if we have an electrolytic system where one island is an anode and another island is a cathode, and there's these 4 island continents between them, an electrical arc is created over them, right? Lots of things are going to happen electrically speaking. The ocean, the saline ocean, or the brine that is around that outside circle of that island is going to become electrically charged. And when that happens, it's going to give off gas. And when that happens, the water will turn white, which creates the churning of the ocean. But another thing that happens is that all those little chemical elements in what we call ocean water are going to be separated, meaning that all of that salt is going to migrate over towards the island that holds the feminine energy, or the cathode island, right? It'll actually pull the salt. I forgot the scientific name for salt. What is it? Sodium, right? Anyways, it pulls the sodium towards it, which would make it encrusted with like white, basically. It could be like a salt island. I don't know. But very interesting how we have another connection to the White Island. Now, some people speculate that it's because the island itself was white, right? And keep in mind that these islands are said to be metallic as well, right? These mountains, these pillars of Hercules, or at least the base of the pillars of Hercules. The real pillars of Hercules are seen when those lights shoot out of them. They create the pillars. They create the rod gods, or the column gods, and the pillar gods, etc., right? The tree gods, etc. That's it. That's all I have for today's presentation. Let me jump in the chat real quick, see if anybody has any comments. Amanda S. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Knowledge 2020 says, even if the chat gets put on the screen, that doesn't mean it's live. Jace still can add our comments. Did he say it verbally or share your comment? All right. So clearly, listen, here's what I'm going to do for all of you, because I know on the weekends, sometimes I've done like a marathon and I'm getting mixed signals about it. I feel like the marathons are awesome because it lets everybody hang out in the chat and new people get to catch up on all my content. But the problem is that some people are like, is he live? Is this really a live stream? Even though it's not. It's pre-recorded when I do my marathons. But right now, it's totally live, right? So what I'm going to do so that I don't have to read everyone in the chat asking, is this a live stream or is this live and stuff? On the ones that are not live, I will put scrolling letters that says, this is a replay. This is not live. I will do that for all of you. So that way you don't get confused. And you don't have to ask, oh my God, is this live? Because I can. Whoever said that's totally right. I can put live comments on a pre-recorded video and play it as live, right? Which I will almost always do on the weekends because I have my son on the weekends. So like I'm not working. Like I will put on, a compilation of, Truth in Movies or Plasma Apocalypse or Ancient Oblivion or something, and I'll play that for, a day or two or something so that everyone can jump in the chat, hang out, have something to watch, new people can catch up, etc. But I won't almost ever do that during the weekdays, not usually. But anyways, I'm going to make it very evident if the video is live or if it's not live. Also, just a tip, if I'm doing my Truth in Movie segment, no need to ask what the name of the movie is. I always put it on the screen right there. So I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not ever going to answer that question from now on. Like, what movie are you talking about? Because it's literally right there on the screen, and it's in the description, and it's in the title. So anyways, let's see. Let me jump back in the chat. We got Alex, who says, people need to read the description on the marathons. It's okay. I mean, I don't read all the description of people's stuff. I totally get it. It's totally fine. That's why I'm saying I'm going to do my part to make it easier for all of you. Steak Beef says, Jay, why does Jason Breshears, why are you asking me about Jason Breshears? I'm not him. Why does Jason Breshears avoid speaking of Titans? I have no idea. How would I even know the answer to that? Such as Thailand video you made years ago. Is he a gatekeeper? I have no... what kind of questions are those for me? And what makes you think that I would even know the answer to that? You're getting blocked. I'm just going to block you. I'm not messing with this stupid stuff. Let's see. Goodbye. Dude, please be cool if you come onto my channel. Like, jump in the chat, enjoy the good vibes and stuff, and moderators, feel free to block people, okay? I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. I mean, I will, like I just did. But yeah, people don't come in here and ask me, you know, personal questions about other YouTubers and stuff. I don't know those YouTubers. You know what I mean? And I'm not friends with them. I don't hang out with all the other YouTubers and stuff. We don't have a little YouTube frat party or anything, you know, like I'm not caught up on all the other YouTubers' videos and stuff at all. So don't ask me to speak for other YouTubers because that would be poor. That would be poor of me. ML donated $6.66. Thank you. Super appreciate it. Thanks, ML. All right, we got another comment in the chat, and it says, Malia Fox says, this is my first time here. Hey, welcome, Malia. I'm so grateful that the universe guided me here. Thank you. You're super welcome and welcome. Lord Racer says, Jada Dreamers, do your thing. We're here to support you. Right on. Good to have the support. Thank you. Knowledge 2020 says, I only asked because Jay's usually quick on the chat, so I thought it may have been. Sorry, Jay, and good to see you. You're good. Listen, if you guys really want to help out, help things to go smoothly. You know what I mean? Like, ask questions to the chat and stuff like. I don't know. I'm winging it. I'm sure everybody's winging it. We're all winging it. Jay knows how to run his show. I really don't, actually. I'm like I said, I'm winging it. I'm just jumping on just like you guys are jumping on. John Lombardo says, Jay Dreamers, ever watch the show Atlantis? No, I haven't. A guy wakes up on a shore in Atlantis from modern times. Then he lives with Hercules and Pythagoras. All right, cool. What else? Okay, let's see. LVK says, Jay Dreamers, did you know that there's a hotel in the middle of the Richat Structure? Are you sure? I did not see. I've been studying this all day. I did not see a hotel in the middle of the hut. Let me see. Let me Google it real quick. That's an easy thing. Hotel in the Richat Structure. I hope you're being honest. Nah. Hotel? Hold on. No. I mean, it says there's igneous rock and stuff like that, which, by the way, is interesting because, you know, it could have been created, igneous could have been created by electrical discharge too. Hold on. All right, so yes, I did Google hotel in the Richat Structure. I'm not seeing one. Could be. Maybe it's there. I don't know. I don't see it though. Even if there was, I would not go there, just so you know. So no, I'm not booking a trip. I would not. That does not look like a fun place for me personally to visit. That looks like nothing to do at all. I don't want to check that out. I don't want to go visit. I don't want to spend time there at all. I'm zero interest in going to this part of Africa. I've been to Africa and I've been to interesting things in Africa, but out in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of circles and there's nothing there really. Nah, I'm not. That's not me. I'm not going. Let's see. No, I cannot read minds, or can I? Ooh, the number 4. You're holding up 4 fingers. I totally guessed it. Somebody did that. Knowledge 2020 says, J Dreamers, did you do a breakdown of the movie Dark Tower? No, but you can always check the Truth in Movies playlist and see what movies there are. There's like over 70. Let's see, J Dreamers, what do you think is at or in Antarctica? You know the North Pole. What about the South Pole? Well, I don't think there is a South Pole. I don't believe in there being a South Pole. I think Antarctica is above us, basically. So I think that it is a part of what do we call the firmament, the sky. It extends and it continues to go up right above us, basically. That it's all ice. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that there's actual, like, you know, land and stuff, like to a certain extent. But once you go past all that land, I think it just curves on upward and it's ice. But that is me. That's my personal thought there. All right, cool. Thank you, Red Rose. Have I been to Rwanda? No, I haven't. I was born there. Dark history, but it's beautiful. Yeah, I saw Hotel Rwanda, which is actually a really good movie. That was a sad story, but it was cool. to watch. Looking 702. All right, we're going to wrap things up here after this. J Dreamers, High and Somewhere in Time with Superman original Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour. 1800s. Setting movie made in the 70s. Just reminding you if you have a chance to watch it. High and Somewhere in Time. Okay. So a little movie recommendation. Right on. Thank you. All right, cool. Everyone wants to say hi. So hello to everybody. Good to see you all. I'm not going to hang out and stuff, unfortunately. I just want to do a quick little presentation and, you know, put the information out there. But I will do a more casual live stream where I just hang out and we just casually talk and stuff another time. For the rest of this week, keep an eye out because I have a lot of videos planned. That's why I had to do this one today because I'm going to do more videos. And they're going to be interesting, we'll say. Fun, interesting, and informative. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to take off. Thanks for joining me. And definitely share your opinion, okay? Keep in mind, you know, this is not to debate, like, you know, people who believe this is Atlantis versus people who believe that's Atlantis or some other place at all. It's not to debate at all. It's just my way of sort of examining the theories and the ideas and presenting to you what my perspective is so far. All right, cool. Well, in the meantime, I'm J Dreamer saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easy
cosmic multiverse.